Hello, Meditation Mastery. Namaste. Hope that you're all doing well. Nice to be with you again in this delayed video. I have been teaching a lot of meditation lately in a lot of different places, and I wanted to talk today about, I think, something like I want to call practicing with adversity, or practicing in times of adversity. I have been hearing from a lot of people that they've been going through some rough patches, and I myself have been going through some rough patches. And it seems like a lot of people that come to meditation, that come to practice, they're looking for a way out of stress. They're looking for a way to kind of like recollect themselves, to feel more relaxed, to feel more present, to feel more stable. And the times that that's the hardest is when we're going through a rough patch, right? The times where it's the most necessary. A lot of people, they actually come to meditation from a place of desperation, from a place of not knowing where else to go, and their minds are so frantic and their bodies are panicking, and maybe they're even getting sick, or their life's falling apart, or just something's going on. And they really say, I need help, I need an answer, I need a solution, I need something to help me through this. And, what can we use to carry us through those difficult times, but also simply how to practice if we have so much unresolved stuff going on. And even if you're not specifically going through a rough patch right now, you have things going on, right? It's tax season, right? We haven't done our taxes yet. And that's in the back of our mind, right? The shopping list, the things we have to do, right? Projects for work, things in our relationship. That at any given moment we have a number of things that are unresolved, that we're still working on and working through. When we're doing our best, there's only maybe a few of those, and then we're doing our worst, there's many of those, and it's usually the worst things kind of piled on top of each other, like going through a divorce, right? Or if there's something like a death that's somebody close to you, or you're sick, or that, the big things when they kind of crash and change. So one of the important things, first off the bat, is always just to remember that everything is in a state of change, right? That everything is moving, is shifting, that nothing is permanent, that even the worst times we've ever had, they've disappeared. I've gone through some horrible crises in my life, and then I look around right now and my life feels, okay. But like last week, it didn't, and just to know that it's changing, and to keep that in the back of our mind, even if that's only like a mental kind of note and our emotions are all over the place, just to know that things are in process, things are changing, that we live in this open system. I think that's really helpful. The second thing that's really important for us to remember is that sometimes there's things that we can do in situations, and then there's also sometimes things that we cannot do, and times that there's nothing that we can do. And it's really important to know the difference between those things, and also just to be very honest with yourself and say, even, I know there's things I need to do, something that I need to say to somebody, there's something that I need to accomplish, a project, right? Cleaning the house, like we procrastinate sometimes things, that there's things kind of on the back burner, but then even on the front burner, and then kind of in our lap, that we have to deal with. And just be honest with yourself. Sometimes we really say, look, I can't deal with any of this stuff right now, and that's okay. And sometimes we say, actually, I can deal with this one, or I can deal with that one. So kind of delegating things a little bit. But on top of that, also realizing the things that are just in process, the things that we don't have an answer for yet, and we're not going to have an answer until the answer comes. I think those are often the hardest things, because it requires patience. It requires something like perseverance, like keep going, don't give up. Even if you don't know where you're going, you don't know what the solution looks like, just keep going. I think it was Winston Churchill, right? And he said, if you find yourself going through hell, keep going. Yeah, just to keep going through, to keep heading through it. Trusting that just through your own efforts, just through having a direction, just through time, and forbearance and perseverance and action where it's possible, that you will start kind of heading in the direction that you need to go. This is very similar to in our meditation practice. If we're sitting and our mind's going all over the place, And we just keep going, just keep sitting, just keep relaxing more, feeling more pleasant in this moment, feeling the breath in subtler and finer ways. To start, if the meditation, if the mind is everywhere, the emotions are everywhere, just keep going, just keep staying kind of on the path that you want to go. And even if things come up and thoughts come up and blind you, and they'll pass, and then you kind of keep going, and then the next thing comes up and blinds you, and then you keep going, and the next thing comes up and blinds you. But you'll keep kind of collecting and dropping deeper and deeper and deeper in. And that kind of understanding that you're keeping your focus in your direction, even if in any single moment there's not a clear path to get there. Yeah, and that's really important, is that if we don't see a clear path, sometimes we freak out. But sometimes it's really like we're heading towards a wall, and you just keep walking towards that wall, and as soon as you get there, suddenly a door appears, or the wall fades away, or you realize it wasn't even a wall, that it was just a limiting belief or a fear, right? Or that something switches. And sometimes you'll walk into a wall and you'll hit it, and you'll realize, I can't go through that wall. And then you have to decide, should I just wait, or is it an actual wall and there's really nothing I can do except go a different way? And these are all things that we kind of have to learn through feeling our way through things in the dark. That for a lot of situations, it's like we don't really see them clearly in the mind. We don't really see it clearly. We have to just keep interacting with it. We have to keep trying and changing and evolving and experimenting to see what works. So this idea of perseverance, of persistence, even if it seems like there's an insurmountable challenge or there's something that's really hard, just keep going and see if you can keep some kind of a positive attitude about it. For myself, when I went to Tony Robbins, and he taught us to change our physiology if we want to change our state, and it involved like jumping and breathing. I've had times in my life when I'm going through things that are really difficult and I don't know kind of the way through, and I just feel overwhelmed in any moment. I'll sometimes really like start jumping up, physically start jumping up and down, my hands up, saying, I don't know how this is going to end, but I can't wait to see how I get through it. That I kind of flip it on its head, and I say, I don't know what's going on. This is painful. This sucks, but I know I'm going to get through it. And just changing that perspective, that relationship to it, it's actually quite empowering, because in the rough patches, kind of the hardest thing is that we feel disempowered. In the rough patches is that we don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to continue. We only see obstacles. We feel like we're getting to the end of the rope. The iceberg that we're standing on is starting to, shrink up, and there's nothing around. I've been in that place many, many, many times in my own life. And you always kind of figure it out, that something comes along, that through your efforts, something happens. The universe just shows up. And again, if you really just look back over your life at all of like the biggest crises, they're gone. You've moved through them. And so why wouldn't you also move through all the ones that are coming right now, right? Or that will come in the future? That we just keep going. The things shift and change, but we just kind of continue in different forms, in different ways, but it happens. So also kind of having that trust, having that confidence and that faith that, I can get through whatever happens, that I can move through things. I myself was also sick last week, and I'm just getting over it this week. And I also feel for myself, when I was sick, I wanted to fight it, and I was drinking like elderberry syrup and some hot tea, and I was going for like long walks in the forest to try to move things through my body and doing some Chinese medicine cupping and things. There was something in me that really wanted to actively change that. And I did what I could, and to the best of, my ability, but I was having these really bad headaches, and my mind was really foggy, and I just didn't feel good at all. And I started saying, why not, instead of, focusing on trying to get rid of this thing, move it through you as quick as possible, why not also, of course, keep drinking the elderberry syrup and the tea and, Pedialyte to stay hydrated and stuff, but also just rest. Like really just stop and relax and just let it do its thing. And, really allowing ourselves to change our strategies, to change our perspectives, to understand that sometimes it's about just stopping and waiting. Yeah, in life we're kind of always feeling like we're supposed to be doing something. There's this push to be active for movement. And if anyone here is like a gardener, if you've ever done projects or things that include like nature and the land, you see that everything takes its own time. That if you're a gardener, if you're a farmer, things are slow, that you plant the seeds and you water them, and there's like a process that you have to continue with throughout the year. But that stuff grows on its own accord and you can't rush it. You know, and there's so many things in our lives that we wish that we could rush, that we try to rush, that we think there's something wrong with us, or like we're doing something wrong if they're not happening faster in the way we want them to. You know, financial goals aren't coming in, our relationships aren't looking how we want. You know, we have these expectations on ourselves that sometimes are actually more damaging than they are helpful or supportive. And really starting to shift that and to learn to be a little bit more in a trusting space and an open space, to know what it means to live in this world, to act with wisdom. Yeah, there was a book that came out, it was on the New York Times bestseller list, and it was called Thinking Fast and Slow. And I actually didn't read the book, but I flipped it open when I was in an airport once, and I was like, took some time and really skimmed through it and got some kind of salient points. But what the book was mostly talking about was that in a pinch, in a reactive situation, will react in a specific way. And I don't have any examples, unfortunately, on top of my head. But for instance, it would be something like, you know, let's say that you're looking for the best restaurant to eat at. So as you're walking around, you naturally are gravitated towards the restaurant with like a lot of people in it, you know, but actually through data sets and interviews and, you know, number crunching, they found that like if you go to a crowded restaurant, you are going to wait longer, it's going to be loud, that your experience of the evening is actually going to be more negative than if you went out to a restaurant that was kind of like more quiet and then you had more of an intimate evening with somebody and you really could connect to them. And so if you were thinking fast, right, if you were just reacting and saying, okay, let's just go to this thing, if you actually looked at some data sets, you'd see that your instinct, your impulse was wrong. And this whole book, and that's not an actual one, so don't listen to me, you know, go to the restaurant that's crowded, it's probably good. But what it's saying is that, you know, a lot of our instincts are actually wrong. That if you look at big number sets and data, you know, longitudinal data and stuff, you'd see that a lot of our impulses and our instincts of how to react, how to handle situations, what to do, actually do not give the results that we want. You know, that you're more likely to get in that accident in the snow if you slam on your brakes than actually if you just let the car kind of slowly glide and then slowly bring the wheel back. That the thing that we want to do out of reactivity often gives us the opposite result from what we want. So it's with our, you know, like reptilian brain, they say, right? So we have, like in our brain stem, we have like the reptilian brain. So it's the small kind of brain that same like reptiles have that just controls like these instincts and impulses, you know, like eat, sleep, mate, like these kind of very basic things. But that if you expand that, then you have like the mammalian brain, which then gets into like social situations. And then also like the human reflexive kind of qualities of the brain are beyond that. And there's different parts of our brain that we use and that we think with. And if we're stuck in reactivity, in survival, we could even say, and this happens when we feel stressed, when we feel anxious, when we feel threatened, that our reptilian brain is the one that kind of jumps up. That the part of our brain that just gets into reactivity is the one that we start using. And scientifically, it's shown that when you use your reptilian brain, you actually make poor choices because you don't have the ability to think things out. You don't see it from different dimensions. You just kind of react out of feeling threatened. So what meditation helps to do, this scientist Herb Benson, he was, I think, a psychologist at Harvard, and he studied people that did meditation, and he found that there's something called the relaxation response. That in the average person, there's fight or flight responses. That, you know, if a stimulation comes, you either have the feeling like you need to fight against it to protect yourself or you need to run away, right? This is very natural. But in people that have meditated, there's something called the relaxation response, which is when a stimulus comes and your body tenses up, you realize that you've tensed up. And then through your practice of meditation, because over and over and over again, you've made this experience of, oh, I'm tense, relaxing, right? Oh, my mind's going, relax. That you've become familiar with this place of relaxation, of letting go, of dropping in. When you're in an actual tense situation in your daily life, that mechanism clicks back in and you start to tense up and then you relax. That you're allowed to take distance. Yeah, and this is like a scientifically proven thing that also says, hey, meditation works, right? Because in our daily lives, we start to create a little bit more space. We are able to respond a little bit more, right? So as we're practicing meditation, anything that's going on in your life, anything that's unresolved, anything that's, pestering you or it's in the back of your mind, that's the stuff that creeps in, right? That's the stuff that's going to come in and try to derail you. That's going to be like pushing and pulling and kind of working in you. And if you have too much going on in your life and you try to sit and meditate, that's going to all just be gnawing at you. And, one of the approaches is that you can try to just sit with that and relax and be present. And then the other approach is that one by one, you start working on those themes and letting them process. They're both, they're both valid. It just depends on what you want, where you're at. I often find it helps to do things one at a time. It's easy to feel overwhelmed with life, overwhelmed with our minds, but just to deal with themes one at a time, break them apart, right? So they're not so strong. Break things apart and deal with them singularly is really helpful. But also in the meditation, there's something that's really powerful, and it's called being. It's called learning to be present with a feeling of discomfort, right? Discomfort mind, discomfort thoughts, discomfort feelings, discomfort in the body. That when we learn just to be present, when we, have a pain in the leg and we don't move the leg, right? When we're having a difficult thought and we just rest and remain, when we're feeling angry or sad or stressed or anxious, what happens if we actually just allow ourselves to feel it, but don't try to get rid of it? And a lot of you might say, but, I feel stressed and anxious all day long anyway, so what would allowing that, stress, how does that help? It's already there all day long. Why would I want to then sit with it? And I'll tell you, it's because in our daily lives, we actually have a resistance to them. That if you really check all the things in you that are difficult, that are painful, you resist them. You're trying to push them away. You wish that they were gone, but you don't know what to do. So you kind of push them away and you're kind of angry and upset, and it's kind of building up in the background, but you almost like tolerate it simply because you don't know what else to do with it right now. So we tolerate. Another word for this is also like suppression, repression, right? We stick things in the back of our mind to not deal with it, and then those things eventually build up and explode. So something that we can do in meditation is that you could sit, if you feel anxious or stressful, invite that in, right? I invite in my stress. I invite in my worry. Yeah, I invite in my difficulties, and I'm going to sit with you, and I'm going to feel you, and I'm going to listen to your stories, but I'm not going to believe you. Yeah, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to think about my job and I'm getting fired and I'm going to be alone and I'm going to have no money and I'm going to be on the street and what am I going to do and all this. And just sit with it and just nod along and say, yeah, that's really hard. That's scary. I feel you, wow, that's a lot, I think you're going to be fine, but yeah, I understand. That's scary. That's a lot, my relationship is falling apart. Yeah, I'm going to be alone. I don't know what to do. I'm already so old. How do I find another partner? This is so great. What do we do? And you sit and you go, yeah, I feel that. Yeah, that's really sad. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, it's really sad. I feel that you're worried. Yeah, I get that. Oh, I'm really angry. This person did this thing to me and it keeps coming up and, I want to bite their head off and yeah, wow. Yeah, that was really unfair. I'm sorry that happened to you, right? I'm sorry. There's injustice there. Yeah, you didn't deserve that. You deserve love. You're right, Allowing these things to come up, but it's almost like you're taking a second party's view of it. Yeah, that you're not listening to these stories and saying, that's me. You're allowing these feelings to come up, but then you're approaching them with love and understanding. You're listening. Yeah, you're starting to deal with those rough patches in a more receptive, almost like an objective way. That you feel those and you feel the whole stories behind them and you nod along and you say, yeah, wow, and you're honest. It's not a condescending, like nod along. You're really like listening and feeling it and saying, oh my God, yeah, that's scary. I understand that. Yeah, that's really rough. That's really difficult. And I find that when I do that in myself, it starts to just free me. I start to open up, right? My belly starts to gurgle and my heart feels warm. And I just feel like I'm starting to like release things from my body, even in my emotional body, because I'm just really allowing and accepting myself to be and to feel. And I'm not telling it, no, it's wrong or don't do that. I'm not nodding along and egging it on and saying, yeah, you should. I'm just listening and I'm really just trying to give love and compassion to those different parts of myself. And I found that it's a really great technique of compassionate listening to myself. Also, that's why we have friends. Please use your friends. Please use your resources around you, that if you need to talk, go talk to people, go find people, let stuff out. But especially in these meditations, when you're sitting with yourself, there's different strategies. Again, you can also just practice sitting and feeling. You can also just practice breathing and feeling the breath and kind of staying focused on your direction, or you could really let these things come up and send them listening and compassion and be with them and let them speak and feel them and understand yourself, but from a different perspective, from a perspective of love and kind of support. And sometimes that's all we need. We need just to be heard. We need to be acknowledged. We need validation. We need somebody else that understands what's going on in us. And sometimes it takes off a lot of the load, that says, look, I don't know the solution to that, but I'm here for you. And to say that to yourself is really powerful, to sit there in meditation and sit there, and say, I'm here for you. Whatever happens, I'm here for me. I'm not alone. I'm going to figure this out. Yeah, I don't know what to do yet, but I'm going to get through it. That's a really powerful tool. And really just keep going. As time progresses, as new pieces come, as new thoughts come, as new plans and strategies come, we get through everything. Humans have taken over 80% of the world, of like the surfaces of the world, from like the deserts to the Arctic to like all these things, because like we've learned strategies. We know how to adapt. Yeah, humans are incredibly adaptable. That's like our biggest strength. We're adaptable. Yeah, and also the world is so flexible. There's so many different ways things can go, so many things to do. So really learning how to break things up, remove the situations from the stories that we're telling, from overly identifying with emotions and pains, and then we're fighting and resisting, and then our mind's all chaotic and stressful. Really kind of reverse engineer that whole process. That's like, I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to look objectively. I'm going to send love, compassion, understanding, support, be there, right? Listen, okay. Breathe, be with yourself, allow yourself just to be in this space. Understand yourself, understand, wow, I'm here. And also there's a tool that I like to use, and it's a really simple tool, and it's called praying. And it's not praying necessarily to anything. I'm not saying like, you're praying to God or to Jesus or to Buddha, or you're not like asking somebody or something else for help like that. But by praying, it's kind of like you're bringing your energy together and you're collecting it around a certain intention. And by collecting your energy around an intention, you're also kind of sending it out around you. So if you pray, and make sure these are positive prayers, right? It's like if you say, I don't want, right? That's kind of like a negative mindset. You have to say like, what you're looking for, like, I am praying for safety, right? I am praying for love, understanding. I am praying for connection. Whatever it is you're praying for, I'm praying for ease for the situation. That just give your prayer. So it's just collecting your energy around an intention and sending it out. And if you really want to work on your languaging, I found for myself that so there's almost like 3 levels. One level would, if you feel stressed, you could sit there and say, I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel stressed. I don't want to feel stressed. Or you could say, I want peace. I want peace. I want peace. Right? Which is like a level better. You're focusing more on what you want. But using the word want, right? I want something. It implies just in the languaging that there's a deficit or there's a space, there's a lack. So even one step towards that, you could even say, I am peaceful. And then feel the part of yourself that is peaceful. Focus positive psychology, right? Focus on the things that you already have. You want abundance. Focus on the abundance you already have in your life. Wow, I actually have a house and I have people in my life. I have all this love, I have support, or I have money, or I have hobbies, or, I have a lot of great information in my head or great skills that I've learned. Focus on what you have, and if you're really going through a lot of stress and you really just want like security and peace, focus, what is the security I already have in my life? And really say thank you for the security that I have, thank you for the peace that I have, the things that are okay. That when you start focusing on the things you want, especially with gratitude, it does this crazy thing where, I don't know if this is like what the law of attraction is about, but it does this crazy thing where your mind starts vibrating into that space. This is what happens when we meditate, when we practice meditation and we're breathing. If your mind's all over the place and your body hurts, when you're meditating, try to feel, what is the part of me that feels the most peaceful? What is the part of my body that feels the most relaxed? And focus on that. If everything is going wrong, but my breath feels nice or my stomach feels relaxed, or the ground under me feels stable, I can just sit there and everything's going crazy. All the alarm bells are ringing. And I can just sit there and say thank you to the earth, and suddenly my whole kind of mental constellation shifts, that everything focuses on thankfulness towards the earth, thankfulness towards stability, thankfulness towards what I already have. And suddenly I actually feel, wow, I'm thankful. This feels nice. I feel relaxed, right? That if we start adjusting our focus with gratitude towards what we already have, we start building up that energy in our mind and our field around us. And I feel that when I sit and I focus with thankfulness on the things that I already have, it's this weird kind of thing that happens, but it also starts coming in more in my actual life. That things do start coming in and shifting. And because I'm focusing on what I have and I feel it, I can already feel what thankfulness, what that peace feels like, what stability feels like, what groundedness feels like. I start creating those emotions. Because actually, this one might be hard, I don't know, but we never are really reacting to external situations. We're always reacting to our feelings about those situations. Even if a meteor is smashing towards the earth and I see it coming through my window, I'm not actually reacting to that thing. I'm reacting to my response to that. That meteor is causing me fear, helplessness, oh my God, existential things, that there's all these different qualities, these emotions popping up, and then I'm reacting adversely to all those emotions that are coming up. But if actually I could shift my emotions and I could see that meteor coming, I could say, wow, thank you. Thank you for this time that I've had. Thank you that I've been allowed to be here for this long. Wow, that's amazing. Not everyone that gets to see a meteor in their last seconds, Sounds kind of crazy, but it's like if in that is the situation you have no way out, just shift it. But in a more practical way, we have to really look at our lives and see if things in our life is changing and we feel like anxious and afraid, and then we're trying to control and fix the situation. Maybe we realize, well, actually all that's going on is that I feel helpless. So maybe I can start to feel, well, what is it that I have control over already? What are the things in me that are working out? That although that situation is shifting, it doesn't have to be directly connected to those feelings in me. I can shift my feeling relationship to that. That situation is just a projection. It's a mirror of my own feelings. Because if you're kicked out of a job, for instance, if you're laid off, you could look at that and be angry and like a victim and all this. You could look at it and be terrified. Where am I going to get my money from? What's going to happen? Or you could look at that and say, you know what? Feels like freedom. Feels like I've been given a new lease on life. I'm now able to maybe pursue something that's more fulfilling for me, pursue new ways of making income that matter more, right? And those are each valid responses. If you're pissed off for getting fired, if you feel helpless and totally stressed for being fired, or if you feel like inspired by being fired, those are all equally relevant. But which ones are actually going to be helpful for you? And this is interesting is when you start looking at your emotional states and asking them which ones are helpful. What is a helpful response, right? So not being the victim of our responses, but also asking and looking, is this helpful? Is this helpful or not? Acknowledging it, yeah, that's scary. Yeah, that boss, what a jerk. Yeah, wow, he is a jerk. That wasn't fair. You're right. Acknowledgement. Yeah. Second one comes up, what am I going to do? I don't know where I'm going to get money. Oh, wow, yeah, existential fear, worry, loss. Wow, yeah, I get that. Wow, that's scary, right? You're afraid. I understand that. And then you feel, okay, what am I going to do? Wow, this is cool. It's inspiring. You go, yeah, this is inspiring. I could do a lot. Let's engage with that energy. That's the energy that I want to use. So it's almost like our emotional states are coming by on like a conveyor belt. And one comes up and it's like anger, and you're like, oh, okay, anger, sadness, oh, okay, sadness. And you're like, inspiration, and you pick that one up. That's the one I'm going to use, right? And then you can kind of watch your emotional states flow by, and you can kind of give them love, give them understanding, but you can choose which ones you engage with, which ones you actually use as tools for yourself, right? Which ones are actually going to help you. And this is really what meditation, mindfulness, this is what it's about, is you're able to start to get that space. You have an internal space to create internal dialogues. Your mind becomes more flexible, that you can start choosing relationships to things, choosing how I'm reflecting, choosing what comes up, choosing what I say, choosing how I want to frame things, which lens I want to use. There's a million lenses. There's the lens that says I'm a victim. There's the lens that says everyone's out to get me. There's the lens that says I'm a powerful guy. They're all real lenses. They're all equally valid. Yeah, you are a victim. Things just happen out of your control. That lens is true. Yeah, I'm terrified. I have no control. I don't know what's going on. That's true. You have no idea what's going on. All of these things are true, right? But which one do you want to pick up and really look through the world with? Understanding, focus, determination, love, hope. Yeah, what are the lenses that I'm going to gather to me, and what are the ones that I'm going to acknowledge and see, but also leave them there? and starting to really work with our relationship to things is so powerful and important. And again, stepping back from everything, from all situations, all stories, just that basic acknowledgement and gratitude that I am alive. Yeah, one of my friends told me this recently. He's like, just step back and say, wow, I'm alive. Thank you. You know, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how horrible and hard it is, just look around and say, thank you, actually, that I'm here. You know, as bad as all of the story is, as bad as all the plot is, I'm still here. And my gosh, I'm so grateful that I have this time to figure things out, you know. Changing that perspective makes life then more manageable moving forward. So those are just some tips and tools. And also for your meditation itself, you know, finding your approach, whether you want to drop in and practice that deep kind of one-pointed stillness of the mind, whether you want to start bringing things up and giving them love and understanding, whether you want to practice feeling things that are unpleasant and just sitting with them. There's all these different approaches that will all build different skills, different tools, different muscles. They're all equally valid, and it just depends which one resonates with you at what time, what feels like you want to do. All of them could be used at some time. But yeah, there's like a buffet of tools for you to choose from, as well as create your own. Yeah, find your own wisdom through this. So yeah, that's the talk on rough patches and what to do with them, and stay tuned for the meditation. Thanks.